Okay, Frank, first question comes from Olga Yak. What made you want to become a sports writer?
What made me become a sports writer? Olga, look at me. I'm not an athlete. Well, I used to be an athlete, but there reaches a point in your life when you know that you probably can't play professional sports, which I think is the dream of a lot of young people. So what is a way to stay around sports but become a sports writer, which is a lot of fun. You get to go to a lot of great events. It was a way to stay involved in sports if you could not participate in sports, even though I still play. Unfortunately, not on a professional level, though.
Okay, next question from Amir Samargandhi. What aspect of your job is the best or the worst?
Wow, we could do the worst in a long time. We could probably start with pay and the long hours, but for the most part, it's all enjoyable because you look at some people that have real jobs. My father was a New York City police officer, so I know what that means to really work. So, getting to go to these sporting events. I've been to Athens for the Olympics. I've been to London for the Olympics. I've seen Michael Jordan, make that game-winning shot against the Utah Jazz in the NBA Finals. To get to be at these events and watch some of the greatest athletes you'll ever see, that is the enjoyable part of it. Plus, I'll tell you something else about the job itself. I kind of like writing on deadline. The pressure of it when you're under the gun kind of reminds you of college, but with probably more sleep.
Mike Fitzgerald says, what is your favorite book not sports related, and what impact did it have on you?
I will say this. One of my favorite sports books is the Joe DiMaggio book. I strongly suggest you read that. You'll find out how pretty intense Joe DiMaggio was, kind of the Michael Jordan of his time. I'm going to take you all the way back because I'm a New York City guy, and I do kind of like The Drinking Life by Pete Hamill, which, you're a kid, your parents are from New York. Pete Hamill lived in Brooklyn. He talks about his childhood. You can kind of relate some of the things. And I think whenever you read a book like that and you could kind of base your experiences or compare your experiences to what, the writer Pete Hamill went through, I always found them to be a little bit similar.
Moss Carrasco asks, if you could cover any sports event from the past 100 years or so, which would you like to have covered?
I would say I'm going to go with two. I would probably say the Ice Bowl in Green Bay. That seemed to be a game that people still talk about to this day, the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. I was not alive when that game took place, so that would be pretty interesting. The other one, which would be fun to be at, it would be interesting to cover, would be the Cal-Stanford game, the play at the end of the game where, Cal scored and they kept lateraling the ball on the kickoff return, trying to sit down and write and explain how that exactly all went down. Because even back then, even though the game was on television, you could see the highlights, still people were going to read the paper the next day. I think those are two games that kind of stick out in my mind.
Pablo Bernard Sison Torrey III writes in and says, what is the most terrified you have ever been at Madison Square Garden?
Besides the day that Pablo Torre showed up and started writing about Jeremy Lin, I would have to say one time, actually a few times. When you cover Charles Oakley has a habit of jumping into the stands after a loose ball. And to this day, I'm still convinced he does it knowing who he might land on. I was actually at a game once where Charles Oakley jumped into the crowd and landed on Patrick Ewing's wife. You could insert your own joke right there if you'd like to. One time, though, Charles Oakley jumped over the scorer's table and his sneaker just nicked me on the side of the head. That was pretty terrifying, seeing someone of Charles Oakley's size, and he might have been upset at something I had written too, so I knew that there was a chance he might take it out on me. That would be the most terrifying.
Devin William Martinez asks, how many goals did you score while playing soccer for Maryland? Also, why Maryland for soccer?
Wow. If you look back at that record, the record books at Maryland, you have guys like Taylor Twellman, big deal. He made it to the MLS. I actually played in games, never scored. I do think one time I actually might have kicked the ball that went near the goal, so that maybe that counts. Also, at the time I went to Maryland, they were not a national power like they are now, so they were nice enough to allow me to walk onto the team and experience. I went to Wake Forest. I got to play against Duke one time. We went down to Virginia and got destroyed by the team that John Harkes was on. But scoring a goal, maybe in practice, never in a game.
Lightning round. Curtis Callaward. Frank, where's the best place to get a slice in the city?
The place where you want to go is Patsy's Pizza, which I think is on either 72nd or 73rd Street. And you never know, you might run into a couple of celebrities. I once saw Kevin Bacon walking down the street and even Jerry Seinfeld. So you get a slice of pizza and you see maybe a little slice of New York as well. You can use that one.
Fred Baker asks, why don't Bomani and Frank Isola like each other?
I actually like Bomani. He's a little jealous of me because of the hair, but I am a little jealous of him because he dresses well. He has a good sense of style, and I just can't pull off some of the outfits that he wears.
Stephen Lawrence Breach, what is worse, biting your cheek, getting a paper cut, or stubbing your toe?
It's the paper cut. And to this day, I still, if it happens, it hurts for a good maybe 5 minutes, and then I start reliving it all throughout the day, and then somebody will accidentally touch it. It's still a paper cut. And you know, that's one of the hazards of being a sports writer. You get those paper cuts all the time.
Anthony Paparo says, in your opinion, what is the greatest sports movie of all time?
You guys are going to make fun of me for this one. I still say to this day, the best sportsman, I get Hoosiers is great. Even The Natural, I like the ending. I think the best sports movie is Breaking Away, which I believe was nominated for an Academy Award. That's the about the little Indy 500 where they ride the bicycles in Indianapolis and Bloomington. I think that's the best sports movie. That and Raging Bull, those two.
Sergio Pereno says, if you could pick any actor, past or present, who you would like to cast to play yourself in Frankie Ice, the movie, who would it be?
Now, this is going to, you know, I'm going to embarrass myself here. And everybody says this all the time. People tell me that I look like Henry Winkler, which kind of makes me angry because he's a lot older than me. But I'm going to take Al Pacino. How can I not take Al Pacino? Hoo-ah. That or Denzel Washington, because all the players say they'd want Denzel Washington to play them, so I'll have Denzel Washington play me.
King Kong ain't got on me!
Like our ancestors before us, we come from a long line of pasta eaters. I have been forsaken with a gastrointestinal uncertainty around gluten and meat and really anything good, and forced into a mostly herbivore diet. But allow me to live through you and your ability to mangiare tutti. Which pasta shape do you most prefer?
Who asked that question?
That's from Anthony Joseph Paul Reale.
Never heard of him, but the best pasta that I like, I go for the nice thin penne pasta. Never spaghetti, always penne.
And we'd like to finish on this one always.
Yep.
James S. says, celebrity crush, then and now.
Whoa! Celebrity crush then. Maybe I'll date myself a little bit, and I'll say, I think all of us in that day and age, it would probably be Farrah Fawcett. Today, though, it's two. I got Nicole Scherzinger. Is that how you say her name? I like her. And look her up. Naomi Lenoir, a French model.